Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Beyond the Ballot, where we aim to demystify the workings of municipal government and highlight the crucial role elected officials play in shaping our communities. My name is Lauren Christella, and I'm the president and CEO of the nonpartisan nonprofit Committee of 70. And for 120 years, we've been dedicated to ensuring that our elections are free, fair, safe, and secure. We help voters vote. We also advocate for policies that make our government more effective, efficient, and transparent. I encourage you to join our work at 70.org. That's SEVENTY.org. And now I'm pleased to introduce our panel moderator for tonight's discussion, Laura Cavender, whose communications expertise, dedication to community service, and in-depth understanding of municipal government make her an invaluable guide for our discussion today. Currently in her second term as a Haverford Township Commissioner for the areas of Ardmore, Bryn Mawr, and Haverford in Delaware County, Laura brings a wealth of experience and a deep commitment to addressing the needs of her constituents in this vibrant and diverse community. Her priorities as Commissioner include strengthening Township sustainability efforts, improving the Haverford Township Free Library, enhancing parks and recreation resources, and ensuring an inclusive and equitable community for all. Before her role as commissioner, Laura was a dedicated member of the Haverford Township Human Relations Commission. With a background as an independent communications consultant, she held key positions in prestigious higher education and nonprofit organizations, including the University of Pennsylvania, where we got to work together, Georgetown University, and the American Red Cross. She now works with clients in the university and nonprofit sectors in Philadelphia and throughout the Commonwealth. Laura, please take it away.
Thank you, Lauren, for that kind introduction. I'm really happy to be here tonight, and I'm so excited to see you, Lauren, at the head of the Committee of 70. You all do great work. Before we dive into our discussion of local governance, I want to introduce our esteemed panelists who bring a wealth of experience and insight to the table. I'm going to let each of them give a quick introduction of themselves, but I will just quickly introduce Karen Smith. She is the president of the Central Bucks Board of School Directors, representing Bucks County. Josh Maxwell, chair of the Chester County Commissioners, who brings his expertise in county governance. Dr. Monica Taylor, president of the Delaware County Council, who will be offering her perspective on county level leadership. And V. Scott Zelov, Lower Merion Township Commissioner from Montgomery County, who will be providing insights from his experience in local government. And in full disclosure, Scott and I share a border. We're fellow commissioners, and our wards line up next to each other. So I'm gonna start with Karen and just ask you to briefly introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your role and the structure of your county. I think that local government sometimes can be a little bit confusing and amorphous to people. So one of our goals tonight is to just try to break it down so we all have a good understanding. So I'll turn it over to you, Karen. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Karen Smith, and I am currently the school board president for the Central Bucks School District. Central Bucks is one of 13 school districts in Bucks County, and we are the third largest or fourth largest school district in the state of Pennsylvania. School boards are generally made up of 9 elected officials, and we can be elected at large or by region. And in Central Bucks, we are by region. This is actually my 3rd term on the board. Just ran for re-election last year and won. And we serve 4-year terms. And I think you also asked about population. Bucks County has about 600,000 residents, but not all of those residents are in Central Bucks School District. Those residents are all of the school districts that are in Bucks County.
Thank you. Josh?
Hey, everyone. My name is Josh. I'm chair of the Board of Commissioners in Chester County, one of the suburban counties here in Philadelphia. We have a population around 550,000, so one of the smaller counties in Southeast PA. We have the population of Wyoming. Geographically, we're about the size of Rhode Island. and I serve on the chair of our election board here in Chester County, as well as our prison board. And Chester County Prison Board actually gets the most attention for very good reasons. And county government really functions like a foundation might in nonprofit work, where we collect money. The foundation might collect money from donors and distribute it to organizations that could use that money or do good work. We collect money from the federal, state government, and then distribute it around Chester County in the form of community block grants, community service block grants, health department grants, and things like that. In some ways, we administer them on behalf of the federal or local government, and we have to apply our local expertise on how that money will be spent in the most efficient and effective way in our county. That's it for me.
Thanks, Josh. Monica?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Monica Taylor. I'm the chair of Delaware County Council, one of the collar counties in the Southeast region. We have a population of about 575,000 people, and our county makeup is just a little bit different than others around the area. We actually have something called a home rule charter. So we have 5 council members versus the typical 3 commissioners that you might see in other areas. And our government structure is just a tad bit different than others in several different ways in terms of our row officers and how many row officers we have and all of these sorts of pieces that come into play when you think about county government. And as Josh said, you know, when we think about county government, it's really a conduit to be able to distribute federal and state dollars to promote programs within the county, thinking through the social services, the human services, the public health perspective, our county prison and our senior services, our housing services. All of those are really funneled through the county government.
Thanks, Monica. Scott?
Thanks, Laura, and thanks so much for hosting, and thanks for the Committee of 70 for putting this event together tonight. I'm a Lower Merion Township Commissioner. Lower Merion Township is the largest township in Montgomery County, both by population. Our population is 65,000. We're also the largest by operating budget. Our operating budget's almost $80 million. About half of which is raised from real estate taxes and the other half raised from business privilege taxes and other sources, including fees. We have a 6-year capital plan, which with some of which is funded from Lower Merion taxpayers, and a lot of it is funded by other sources, county grants, state grants, federal grants, PennDOT grants, and that budget over 6 years is over $200 million. We are a township of the first class, which means that we're one of the bigger townships. That's how Pennsylvania organizes local government. We're governed by the rules of Pennsylvania, the municipalities planning code. We have an unusual number of commissioners in Lower Merion in that we have an even number. There are 14 of us. We run by ward. My ward includes Haverford, Bryn Mawr, and parts of Gladwin. And as Laura mentioned, we share a common border. She is in the neighboring township of Haverford. And with that neighboring border, we've worked very well together on some important issues. And I've been commissioner in Lower Merion since 2006 and currently the longest serving member of the board. And I'm chair of the finance committee.
Thanks, Scott.
Sure.
So tonight's discussion is going to dive deep into the world of local governance in suburban areas. We want to understand what drives our panelists to serve the public, what they see as their top priorities, and the hurdles that they encounter along the way. We'll also be exploring the different paths that lead people into local governance. We all have our own stories. So we want to celebrate successful projects that have made a real difference in our suburban communities, and we want to share tips on how you can get involved in shaping your local government. Our goal is to provide valuable insights and perspectives that inspire and empower all of us to play an active role in our communities. So let's jump right in and we'll get the conversation started. So I have just a kind of a softball to start off with. Why did you decide to go into public service? And I think, Karen, I'll just go ahead and start with you. What led you to public service?
I'm not sure it's a super interesting answer. I actually worked for the school district in public relations, And we ended up in a family situation where I kind of needed to scale back my professional duties, and ended up working part-time still in school public relations. But then I thought, well, it'd be really interesting if I could still stay involved in my actual school district in my home area if I was on the board. So I decided to run. The first time I ran, I didn't win, and then just kind of stayed engaged over the next 4 years. And there were some issues in the district, and was able to win the seat the next time in 2015.
Great. Am I right in remembering that you had a rather unique swearing-in ceremony?
Yes, for this term, I did have I don't think it was going to be that unique, but I guess people thought that it was. In the last couple of years in Central Bucks, we've had some, we've made some headlines with a policy that effectively bans library books. So for this term, for my swearing in ceremony, I chose to be sworn in on a stack of library books, most of or all of which have been either banned here in Central Bucks or in other schools across the nation. And I guess it was a catchy headline and kind of went viral after the swearing in ceremony. So,
As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
yes.
Josh, how about what led you into public service?
Thank you, Laura. I have to mention, though, because Karen entered my life today, and we have never met, besides this screen in front of me. And I teach a college course in American government at Lincoln University and HBCU. And we're going over the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, religious freedom, First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment. And one of the students asked, do you have to be sworn in on a Bible? I said, believe it or not, there's a school director in Bucks County who got sworn in on a stack of books that were banned in her school district, and they were like enthralled by this. And when on Tuesday, when I mentioned I've met the person I represent in class, they're gonna be absolutely ecstatic, because that was all. They're like, you can be sworn on a law book and all kinds. Anyway, Karen, you're a celebrity at a small town in Chester County.
Okay.
I got involved with public service because my town, my hometown, town of 10,000 people, was selling a park. And I was 22 years old. I was mad about it. I was in college. I couldn't believe that they were going to sell the town park, the park right in the center of town, for a developer. So I asked a professor what I could do about it. I wasn't registered to vote. I was registered to vote, but not with a political party or anything. I was into politics. And he suggested I join the local planning commission. So I applied to join the planning commission. They made me ex officio. I didn't know what that meant, but I learned that it meant I couldn't vote against the development of the park. So I decided, well, that's not enough power for me to do anything. So I ran for mayor and got elected mayor of Downtown by 40 votes when I was 26 years old, and we stopped the park development. So I got to be mayor of my hometown for 10 years and work on some economic development projects. But really, I didn't want the park to be sold, and that's why I started to get involved.
Nice. Monica, turn it over to you.
Yes, so actually I started my public service on school board in the Upper Darby School District, and really ran for office because I have 3 little ones who are going to be in the school district for a really long time. Now they are 10, 7, and 3, but a long time in the school district, and just wanted to try to give back to my community and work with the school district to help them in any way that I could. But what led me to moving on to county council is really trying to work with our school districts to create workforce development programs. We were creating a workforce development program in Delaware County that was in Upper Darby School District in particular, to really help our kids who were thinking about going into the workforce directly after high school, and trying to figure out how can we best assist them and how can we make sure that they have access to jobs that are going to provide them with a family sustaining wage. And we were creating all these connections with the unions and the community college and tech companies in the city, and working a lot with Montgomery County Workforce Development and the city of Philadelphia. And it really opened my eyes to Delaware County and just where we were lacking as a county in terms of resources for our school districts. hospitals. And once I started to look into the county, I realized that we were the largest county in the country that didn't have a health department. And that's really what sparked me to want to run for the next level and try to make a difference there and create a health department in Delaware County.
And you have now done that.
Yes, we have. Our council is such a great team, and I want to say thank you, Josh, again, for being our health department when we did not have one in the midst of the pandemic. So thank you, Chester County. And our county council has really worked together and collaboratively with so many stakeholders in the community to move that project forward. And yes, we do have a health department. It is now almost 2 years old.
That's great. Scott, what brought you into public service?
So Laura, for me here in Lower Merion, it started at a time when there was a proposal for an earned income tax, which would have been a very bad idea for this township that borders the city, and all the people who work in the city. None of that wage tax would have come back to the township. And I learned about the issue, went to the commissioners' meeting, spoke about it several times, and what was going to be a close vote and projected to pass became a close vote that was defeated. And that bad idea has never resurfaced. It was a good time in my life to run for office, and my neighbor and friend who was the ward commissioner decided to not seek re-election. And when I learned that, I decided this is something I wanted to try. I thoroughly enjoy public service, and in local government, people care about what goes on where they live. Our meetings are televised. People watch. People come to the meetings if there's an issue that is specific to them. But people want good local government. They care about it. It's easier to connect with what goes on locally than what goes on at a state or federal level. And so I've thoroughly enjoyed making a difference, because what we do locally does matter to people and makes a difference in their lives.
Thank you. So the next question, what are one or two priorities that you've identified for this term that you're in? I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Josh, I'll start with you this time. One or two priorities for this term.
Oh, yeah, two specific priorities. One, we care a lot about public transportation in Southeast PA, and we in Chester County need to better connect to Philadelphia for a variety of reasons: economic development opportunity, but most importantly, connecting people that live here who don't have access to private transportation, the opportunity to use public transportation in the Philadelphia transit system. So I know SEPTA is tight with money and all this kind of stuff, but extending SEPTA 1 mile to the city of Coatesville is a huge priority of mine. Norristown has 3 stops, Chester has a stop, and the Paoli-Thorndale line stops 1 mile short of Roundley City. So trying to nudge that over, take advantage of that Amtrak station that's already there, that rail line that's already working, and doing what we can to financially support SEPTA to extend it to our population that really needs the public transportation the most. The second thing, and Dr. Taylor and I have talked a lot about this over the last couple of years, about how we build a better hospital system in Southeast PA and handle people with mental health issues a little bit better, how we find better providers. The pandemic took a lot of the providers in our areas that didn't have a lot of cash flow, and they ended up leaving the industry. But building more mental health beds in Chester County and globally in Southeast PA, and also backfilling the hospitals that we lost with better providers, working with our partners like at Penn Medicine and other things to move into the areas that are healthcare deserts, so that people in those areas in Chester County, that might be people in rural areas, Lancaster, or people in the city of Coatesville, making sure they have access to healthcare. Huge priority for us.
Great. That's important stuff. Scott, I'll head to you next. Do you have a priority or two that you're identifying for your term in office?
Sure. Right now, a big issue is public safety. So supporting law enforcement and ensuring the future of our volunteer fire service, and specifically supporting the important work of the Lower Merion Police Department. There has been a significant increase in burglaries from South American gangs that has not only affected Lower Merion, but has affected many suburban communities. probably in each of the counties that are here represented this evening, as well as other communities in nearby states. And the professional burglars have the community on edge. Our police department, in cooperation with all the others, is working very hard to investigate these burglaries, and it's something that it is a high priority for me as I am vice chair of the police committee. And then Laura, I think another priority that's always important to me, and I think important to residents in my ward as well as throughout the township, is providing our high level of services at a reasonable tax rate. We haven't had to raise our township real estate tax rate in a long time, and we still continue to provide a high level of services. And I think that that's very important. As I mentioned, people care about what goes on in their township, and so they want roads and bridges that function. They want parks and open space, and they want their libraries to be open, and we provide those services. And so, you know, fair, good services at a reasonable tax rate. That would be the other priority.
Great. Karen.
Sure, thanks. So I would say I think the main priority for this term is actually to kind of stop the very political, very divisive, and very distracting activities we've been having at the board level for the last couple of years. Some of our board meetings, unfortunately, have been more like a circus. And it's really just kind of a detriment and embarrassment to our community. I've heard that from many people last year when I was door knocking, you know, just tired of being in the news and the negativity that surrounded all of that. So I would really like to find ways to calm that down and return our meetings to more kind of more sedate, more professional situation. I do want to make a point and make sure that I share that over the last couple of years, even though we've had such issues in the district, that our staff has continued to do like an amazing job with our kids, and at the school level, at the classroom level, our teachers, our support staff, they've been there for the kids and supported them throughout this, you know, difficult time that we've been through. So while I feel like we need to refocus on students at our level, the staff has been doing that all along. So I don't want to like make it seem like they haven't been. And secondly, mental health has always been a priority for me, the mental health of our students. In my own family, I have a child who struggles with mental health issues, and that was, you know, the last time I ran, I was talking about mental health, and unfortunately then we had COVID, and now we've had this other situation with you know, the political nature of things. And I feel like that it's just keeps taking a back burner. And so would definitely like to try and refocus on finding more mental health supports for our students. As Josh mentioned, there's a little bit of a crisis really with availability of professionals, you know, therapists and doctors who can work with both kids and adults with mental health issues, and space in facilities for folks who need that kind of support.
Thanks. I agree. Our kids have really been through it. Monica, 1 to 2 priorities.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. You know, in our first 4 years in office, we were really aggressive with big projects, right? So creating a health department, deprivatize a prison, and expanding open space. And so one of our priorities is, of course, to make sure that those are all on solid footing and moving forward in a positive manner. But thinking through what our plans are as a council and priorities in the next term is really first housing. We created a housing coalition last year that has been working for the last year to put together a plan for us to move forward. And we broke it down into 3 different buckets, into the unhoused, rental housing and stability, and keeping people in their homes, and then home ownership. And how do we keep more people in their homes and help provide them with the supports that they need to stay there, but also our first-time homeowners. And so really trying to move forward with that plan. Our coalition just presented to us a few weeks ago, which is really exciting. And we actually have a blueprint of how we can help improve in that space in Delaware County. And so we're moving forward with it. The second one, I'm going to chime in with Karen and Josh and talk about mental health supports and mental health supports in Delaware County, right? We are all feeling it and we understand the impact. And really thinking through in Delaware County how we can expand services, how we can improve accessibility, and how we can increase our providers. We've lost providers through the pandemic, and that's not helping anyone. And how can we help them? How can we help support them? How can we bring more people into this space and support our school districts, support our families, support our adults who are struggling? And how do we do that in an effective manner?
That's great. I just think about all the different things that the 4 of you mentioned, and they're things that impact people's lives in so many ways, and are so important to our day-to-day lives. So I'm going to switch topics a little bit. I'm not sure if you are all part-time elected officials. I know at least some of you are, but I wanted you to kind of talk a little bit about, explain the logistics of executing your role on a part-time basis. I know, these types of jobs often involve evening meetings, evening events, weekend events, door knocking can happen at any time, day or night, rain or snow, weekends. And so how do you balance the, professional and public service responsibilities? And Karen, I'll start with you.
Sure. So school board is a volunteer position. You do not get paid, and it is part-time. But as you mentioned, there are meetings at night, and obviously campaigning is a whole different ballgame. When you're campaigning, that kind of just eats up all available time that you may have. For all 3 of my terms, I was actually only working part-time professionally. And then I would say, like, being on the school board is kind of like a part-time job. So, I was able to balance everything fairly easily, just with structured planning. I think it is more difficult for folks who work full-time, and it depends what kind of job you might have. Obviously, in the last couple of years, there's some more flexibility with taking Zoom meetings, et cetera. That might make it easier depending on the type of job that you have. Right now, one of our new board members is a nurse practitioner. So, when she's at work, like, that's it. There's, we can't schedule a meeting during the day and have her be part of it because she can't do that. So just kind of depends on what your day job is. And I think I've been fortunate in my life and my schedule to be able to make things fit fairly well.
Scott, how about you?
The job of commissioner can be a full-time job. It seems like at sometimes, and other times much less so. I'm fortunate in that I work from home, and I rely on the township staff. We have a very capable staff who's supports us in our governing role. We don't run the township day to day; they do. I think email has been very helpful. I try to direct text messages and phone calls to email. That way I can respond when I have more information and can forward a lot of information. And, it's a lot of time management. One comment on what Karen just said, school board members in Pennsylvania don't get paid. They run huge budgets. I think that it's time for that to change. In order to get high quality school board members, I think they should be paid. Township commissioners are paid. We're not paid very much. The amount we're paid is limited by state law. That's fine. But the budgets we run matter, and the work we do matters. And so you have to be willing to basically have two jobs. As one of my colleagues says, he has his commissioner job and he has his paying job.
I can relate to that. And then if you have a newborn at home, then you have a third job. So Josh, how do you balance your responsibilities?
You have to be really organized. The other people on the Zoom are probably better at this than I am, no doubt about it. But like to go from like topic to topic every 15 minutes, I get confused by that sometimes. We're like, okay, it's hospitals for this 15 minutes. Then 15 minutes later, it's transportation. 15 minutes later, it's a housing initiative or things like that. So they try to combine it to make it. The staff combines it to make it easier for a decision to make quickly. But sometimes like that staccato type approach to policymaking is difficult when your time is limited. So getting organized and allotting time to read information ahead of time is extraordinarily important. And then finding time with staff to have one-on-one without your colleagues to understand things more thoroughly and making sure you get your questions answered, because they're going to be different probably than your colleagues if everyone's thinking independently. And generally, I think it's a good thing. I will just say, having spent 10 years essentially volunteer mayor of a small town and now being in a full-time elected position, or mostly full-time elected position, it's like you look back on that $200 a month you get for being a local township supervisor or whatever, that just means the world, because it's so much fun being in your neighborhood and being to help the people like down the street from you, whether it's trash collection or a teacher in need of something at a school district. There's a lot of like, you really get paid in helping people. And I think that's a blast. And I think that's the attraction to a lot of people that do this work.
Thanks. Dr. Taylor?
Yes, so in Delaware County, council is considered a part-time position, and I am a full-time professor and graduate program director at a university in Philadelphia. And so it's really about my job while demanding, my full-time job while demanding, both jobs are demanding, but my full-time job as professor, it's very flexible. And I am, wholly focused on the university when I'm there and working with my students. And then I try to use time management to figure out how I work around my course schedule, the evening meetings that we have, the community events that you all go to all the time over the weekends, and just making sure to be as organized as possible and try to be as accessible to the community as I can be. And as Karen said, utilizing our new tools that everybody is coming very familiar with Zoom and being able to do meetings while on the go, and all of those pieces come in play to making it more available and easy to do.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to throw these questions out to all four of you. I'll just let you sort of weigh in one at a time, or whoever wants to take the question can. We talked about, actually, we've sort of answered this. I'm going to go to the next one. So celebrating wins. Can you provide some examples of successful initiatives, policies that you've implemented that have had a positive impact on the suburban community? Any examples you would give?
I'll jump in. I would say that we were successful in creating a health department in Delaware County. We were the largest county by population without a health department in the country. And we did that during the pandemic without a health department. Thank you, Chester County. Again, I'll just keep saying thank you to them for years to come. And, we were able to work with community leaders and to implement that health department. And it was also the first one that was created in the state of Pennsylvania since 1989. And it's really hit the ground running and trying to impact public health in Delaware County, working with all the individuals, being as accessible as possible, and really thinking about that chief health strategist as that health 3.0 model, and how can we be more out in the community and engaging individuals and making sure we're trying to meet those public health concerns that are out there and the needs that are out there. And I give kudos to our director and everyone in our health department, because they really have hit the ground running.
I'll jump in. I view myself in this role of public service as a problem solver, and I just thoroughly enjoy helping solve problems both for individuals and community wide. when I first joined the board, there was the Bryn Mawr Business District is in my ward, and it was we were there's a lot of issues, and we created a master plan with some outside help. And that master plan, we had a lot of community input, and it was a master plan that everybody supported, from residents to businesses to people who were, shopping in the business district. And we had it led to some zoning changes that allowed the business district to, in some ways, redevelop. We made some intersection improvements adjacent to the business district that also followed the recommendations of the master plan. That master plan has been a roadmap, and it's still the roadmap. And it has been a model master plan for one that has recently been just created and approved in Ardmore, the adjacent business district. And so, I'm very proud of that accomplishment. And somewhat related is, certainly to problem solving, we are a township that has neighbors, and, Laura, working with our neighboring township of Haverford, working with Radnor to solve problems of schools and athletic fields and traffic calming issues, has really been satisfying, because people in the community don't really care about where a township starts and ends. They want to know that the problems that impact their daily lives can get addressed. And so I think, I've been able to do that working with my colleagues in Lower Merion, and working with you and your colleagues in Haverford, and working with other commissioners in Radnor Township. We've been able to improve our broader community and overcome some of the challenges of having township lines and county lines. So that's been very satisfying.
That's a good point. We've worked together on everything from a park that our two townships share, which is the last couple of years we worked on that, but also the issue of billboards in our townships. It's a shared interest that we have, and the border that we have happens to be Lancaster Avenue. So we've worked together, the townships have worked together for, I think, going on 14 years now to work on the issue of billboards.
Yep.
Josh.
I'll just add, and first off, I don't like Dr. Taylor's answer, because it meant she fired Chester County as a vendor in health services. She didn't say it, but she said it nicer than that they were so displeased with Chester County, they decided to do the first time since 1989 create their own department. But we appreciate her being nice about it. For us, when you start this gig, and Dr. Taylor and I did about the same time, I think the same year, it's like, okay, we got to get a handle on these things, and there's not a lot of guidance really from the jump. But we really dove into our budget, and this might be the only audience that would care about this, including the panel, is, does our budgeting system make sense? And is there a way for us to free up some cash to prioritize it differently that this changing electorate might want? So we looked at lots of different budgeting models. We spent a whole year trying to figure that out, zero-based budgeting, the rollover budgeting system we had before. And we eventually settled to do a priority-based budgeting model so we can track our money coming in and align it with community surveys and community priorities a little bit better. That allowed us to free, in long-term spending, over $80 million that we could reallocate to new programs, new projects without raising taxes, just by managing the money that we had coming into Chester County a little bit better. And I would encourage anyone who gets involved with municipal governance to really understand how municipal budgets work, how this money flows, how bonds work, how revenue bonds works and general obligation bonds works, and how things get paid for, because there's a lot of opportunity to find efficiencies. And if you can free up some cash that you already have coming in to do new cool stuff, like set up a health department, it's a great opportunity to take advantage of that.
Thank you. That's one of the things coming in new to this job is no one gives you a handbook to figure out how to do it, which can make it really hard. But it also, like you said, Josh, gives you can think differently, think your own way, bring your own perspective to problems. And I think anybody who thinks they're not qualified to be in local government, don't underestimate yourself. I tell people, if you want to serve, if you want to step up, bring your perspective, bring your experience. It's always important. Anybody else have anything wins that you want to celebrate or talk about? So the next question is facing challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced or that you typically face, suburban governments typically face, and then how do you navigate these challenges to serve communities? Karen, I didn't mean to leave you out of the last question. I'll hand it over
No,
to you.
it's kind of like holding on for this question, to be honest, as it feels like challenging is more of a description of the last couple of years. I was going to say that, you know, if you're a person who's like thinking about jumping into local government at this point, some people might honestly be afraid of taking the step because things really have become so political, so divided. And it seems like, you know, whenever you're hearing news stories about government at any level, that it's just very tense and uncomfortable. And why would you want to put yourself in that situation? And you know, that is true, that is happening. But what's really happening is that the extremes on both sides of the political spectrum are getting a lot of attention in the last few years. And like, you know, I've ended up saying this a lot over the last 6 months, but campaign literature makes everybody look like a moderate. And no matter who you are, if you're a voter or a community member or you're running for office, you really need to keep in mind that while we do have these kind of extreme voices in our political atmosphere, most people fall in the middle. And while it can be hard to kind of like shut out, you know, extreme loud voices, most of our communities are in the middle, and there are ways to do that, to kind of shut out those voices and focus on the majority of people who are really advocating for certain positions. So I think I have learned a lot of lessons about that in the last couple of years that are valuable, not only like as a school board member, but just as a regular person trying to kind of navigate our new kind of political landscape here. But people shouldn't be afraid. Like it's possible to get through it, and just to be aware of what you're getting into, and look to advice from well, more experienced people than I am. But anyway. Thank you.
Thanks. Challenges.
So I'll jump in. You know, the pace of government is slow. You know, I have a business background, and I'm used to being a problem solver in that environment. And but you know, slow pace of governance it also makes sense because we do everything in a public forum. We don't make decisions behind closed doors, with very few exceptions, and we welcome public comment. And as I said earlier, people do care about what goes on where they live, and they come and make their comments. And so, and there are so many different ways. There are often many different ways to solve problems, and so it takes time when it involves what goes on in the community, and you know, with public funds, and decisions that we make about, you know, about traffic calming, decisions we make about land development. Those are it does make sense to take time for those difficult decisions, but it can be frustrating as well. I would have a slightly different point of view than what Karen just expressed. I think, at least in my experience, our local government, we operate in a very different sort of mindset than what people would read about in state and federal government. We don't ever talk about those issues in the process of doing what we do. And we are there to serve our community and work through you know, the priorities that we set as a board and solve problems. And we do so with different opinions and have at times split votes, but we never cross the line of making personal comments or even attacks. We just don't do it. We have come from different points of view, but you know, it makes it fun actually, we enjoy generally enjoy working together, and it's a very different type of governance than people see on TV, unless they watch our local TV. So, you know, and that's why I continue to do it, because we do make a difference, and I continue to enjoy that.
Thanks. Josh?
One of the things I was thinking about is in Southeast PA, we're growing pretty fast. In that, you know, we're juggling things like on the upward side of the escalator here. And as population shifts to Southeast PA and the Northeast quarter, we have to find the best possible way to handle housing, to handle public health, to handle public transportation. In Pennsylvania, 50% of the registered Democrats are between Chester County and Philadelphia. Republicans, 50% are from Lancaster to Philadelphia. There's a lot of population, and we need to make sure we're continuing to be the economic engine that Pennsylvania counts on us for, to pay for, you know, the whole Commonwealth, or a large portion of it. So how we manage that money is really important. Where we put our housing, is it next to public transportation? Are we developing our downtowns in the right way? Are we doing a mix of housing, making housing accessible to people who are working full-time out of college, where they can buy a condo or buy a townhouse and be able to start building equity instead of renting? How we kind of SimCity Southeast PA, so it looks the way we want it to look in 2050 from a planning department. So I think just managing that up escalator in terms of population growth is something that is really important and on the forefront of all of our minds.
Thanks.
I would also like to add that I think a challenge in suburban governance in particular, especially when you compare like Philadelphia being both a city and a county, we have 49 municipalities. And Laura, thank you for being a representative from one of them. And just being the county government and making sure that we're working with every single one of our municipalities. And bringing them to the table as much as possible. And so that's what we've really tried to do as a county council, as much as we can engage with our local municipalities to find out what's going on in your municipality, or if we have projects happening, how do we collaborate and how do we really move this forward as a county? You know, in that coalition for housing, we have municipal representatives, because we can't do this without our local government and our local municipal representation, right? In order to move those projects forward, it's a collaborative effort. And so for us, it's really about bringing as many people to the table as possible and making sure that we're hearing all the voices, because every single one of those 49 municipalities are very different and they all have their own issues and their own problems, and we want to make sure we know them and are aware of them.
Great. I love how different all of your answers are. This is just a really great discussion. So we have sort of a lightning round now. We want people who are participating, whether they're here live or watching on YouTube later or watching on Facebook, to have a takeaway that is useful to them. So I would like each of you to give 2 suggestions for residents who want to be more involved in their local government at any level. What can people do?
I would say they need to probably either watch or attend the meetings of the local government that they think they're interested in. So you, like several of us have mentioned, you can watch on local access, cable access, or you can go to the meeting in person. We've actually at points had school board members running for school board who'd never come to a school board meeting before, which I thought was kind of amusing. And secondly, the path to actually getting elected is generally through a political party. So all political parties kind of start in a small political club in your area. My region, actually, I'm represented by 3 political clubs. So I would have to go to the New Britain Democrats, the Plumstead Democrats, the Buckingham Democrats. They represent my region in Central Bucks. So I would go to those political groups and start to talk to them about, or just get involved with the group itself. And then as time goes on, it gets closer to the election, talk about whether there's availability for someone to run.
I would say that the first thing you have to think about if you're interested is what are the specific issues you care about? What would motivate you to want to provide, to be a local commissioner or supervisor or school board member, and then also look in the mirror and decide if you like knocking on doors, because local government is about meeting people in your community and hearing what they have to say and listening. And the best way to do that is to knock on doors. I love door knocking. I like to meet the people who've moved into my district. I liked initially I met everybody, and some people said thanks, and that was the end of the conversation. And other people had lots of things that nobody had asked them their opinion of, and they wanted to talk about it. And you learn so much. And so I do agree going to meetings, but you can watch meetings on TV. But it also helps to know a supervisor or a commissioner or a school board member, so you can hear from them what it's like. But there's lots of need for good people to serve their local government, and hopefully this forum, Laura, will be maybe there'll be some people who become interested in doing so as a result of listening to what we do and how we do it.
Thanks.
I would add into that, get involved in your community as much as possible. See where there's local events, activities that are happening. And, for us, if you're looking to dip your toe in a little bit and see what it's like to be a part of some government structure, we have over 30 boards and commissions, and those are all volunteer positions. And we have an active and open process for anyone from the community to apply. And so we're always looking for community members to be a part of that. And they cover all sorts of areas, from economic development to senior services. So if you're interested, please look at our boards and commissions and think about applying.
Monica, that's exactly what I was going to say too. I was actually really surprised at just how much volunteer work goes into the work of our township. Everything from the historic commission to the library board to the zoning board. I mean, there's any number of ways, Parks and Rec, that you can get involved. And your volunteer time is really, really valuable. So, Josh.
I'm a big believer, and it's probably wrong, to just getting after it. I think politics, and especially local governments, where the stakes look high and people behave as if they're very high, but really we're filling potholes. And that if you think you're more qualified than the people there, don't get turned off by the negativity of meetings and things like that. We need you. And I imagine if you are someone watching this on a pre-recorded Committee of 70 YouTube channel, you're probably prepared to run for local office. And I encourage you to find something. We're really short on great candidates running for local office. And as someone who has won some of those and lost plenty, don't worry about winning or losing. If you think you can do the job and do it well, I say get after it.
It's great. I love it. So does anyone want to make any final comments? We're almost to the end. We're not going to be taking open Q&A from the audience, but thank you everybody for attending. The people who are attending to watch, anyone who's watching on Facebook or YouTube, we're really glad to have your participation. And Scott, Karen, Monica, Josh, thank you very much. If you have anything final you want to say, I'll open it up one more time. Thank you all so much for your time. So all of your insights have been invaluable. I want to thank everybody for a stimulating discussion. Thank you, Lauren and the Committee of 70 for hosting us. And this session will be available on YouTube for future viewing. And I look forward to continuing this journey together and shaping our communities. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura and Lauren and Karen and Josh and Monica. Nice to meet you over the screen, and I've enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having us.